Welcome and good afternoon, and welcome to Breaking the Silence, a podcast where we talk about addiction, mental health, and the hope and courage to be able to navigate and make it through. This is a podcast where we talk about all sorts of different topics related to recovery and give our viewers a little bit of inspiration and hope and guidance through their recovery journey. I am so blessed to have Stephanie Sherouse, author, mental health advocate, and a warrior. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. I mean, just being able to sort of read your bio here and just seeing some of your experience and the things that you've gone through the course of your life is just so amazing and inspiring. And I'm hoping that you're able to share some of that with our viewers listening today. Being able to sort of share your experience, strength, and hope with us. You have a book out right now, and it's called From Ashes to Wings. So it's a book that you wrote, on your own and published on your own, from my understanding. Tell me a little bit about your journey, with some of those challenges that you had, and how did that idea come into mind for you to publish a book and write about the journey for yourself?
Sure. Well, the book is a memoir of my life and all the things that I've gone through. And that kind of stems, or actually encompasses, quite a lot. I lost my husband and the father of my two children back in 2003. He committed suicide. 2 years later, I lost my mother. She was 53. She died of a massive heart attack. So just within the span of 2 years, lost two of the very most important people in my life. Raised my two sons on my own. And then in 2018, just stress and everything got to me, and my children were quite a bit older and pretty much grown. And I attempted suicide myself, which thankfully was not successful. But, I pushed through that, and later on, after building a successful company and thought I had just reached the pinnacle of my life, I got two back-to-back devastating diagnoses of epilepsy and early-onset dementia, which completely ended my career doing something I loved. So even though this book has kind of been brewing in my mind for over a decade, it kind of took that medical diagnosis for me to say, hey, let's take all of this in my life and let's turn some pain into purpose. And maybe my story can show other people that no matter if it's something small you're going through or many, many mountain ranges like I've had to deal with in my life, you're not alone. You're not doing this by yourself. You're not the only one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's some powerful, message that you send, because, ultimately, going through such devastating news and going through such of a trial and just tribulation of, things that happen in life, how were you able to sort of navigate through those experiences? Because, for a lot of people that, struggle with, all sorts of different things, getting news or, being put in a situation where, is so beyond your control of something like this catastrophic happening. How are you able to sort of navigate and work through some of the losses in your life?
Well, when I lost my husband and then shortly thereafter my mother, I was very lucky at that time to have a very large, strong network of friends and family. Mm-hmm. I was very blessed at that time in my life to have that to support me through. Over the years, that group of people did kind of fizzle out of my life. And I think that's what kind of brought me to the breaking point when I attempted to take my own life, because I felt like I didn't have anyone. Mm-hmm. I did get recommended to therapists and counselors that kind of brought me out of that dark place after that. But it was kind of pulling myself up by the bootstraps. And getting myself back on track and realizing what my triggers were and learning those things on my own. This diagnosis really kind of put me back on my rear end, and I had to realize that, hey, that dark place isn't you anymore.
Yeah.
And I had to snap myself out of it and realize that, even when you don't think you have anybody else, you have yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really strong thing. That's a really powerful thing. And you've got to realize that you have a strength inside yourself that you don't realize sometimes. And you can pull yourself out of dark places. So, these are rough things to go through, but if you catch yourself and you identify your triggers and you reach out to some people, even if you think you don't have anybody, you have your neighbors, you have your coworkers, even if it's just, finding a counselor or a therapist, or finding an organization like yours where you can just call up and talk to somebody, even if it's just, trauma dumping on the poor cashier at the grocery store. People listen. People are kinder than you realize.
Yeah. Wow. So, you went through all of that experience, and then you wrote a book, From Ashes to Wings. What did that title mean to you? What was so prevalent about making that your title, and being able to sort of broadcast it out to the general public?
Well, first and foremost, the Phoenix embodies the spirit of rising again. When the life cycle of a phoenix, when it dies, it bursts into flames and goes to ashes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the baby phoenix is born, it is reborn from its own ashes. And when I was at the pinnacle of my success, I had gone through gastric sleeve surgery, lost over 100 pounds, felt amazing. And I actually have the cover of the book tattooed on my arm.
Wow.
Which the tattoo came way before the inspiration for that, but that's where the imagery from the book cover came from. Because I thought, I had been reborn from the ashes of all this crud in my past. And I said, you know what, that is the perfect thing to put on me permanently, to remind myself that I can be reborn from anything. And it really is true that the phoenix, no matter how many times it dies, it is consistently reborn from its ashes. And that is true for anybody, that you can be broken over and over and over and over again, and you can still rise, you can still be reborn, you can still start over. It doesn't matter what happens in your life. You can do it again. You can rebuild.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's so beautiful that you're, use the metaphor of a phoenix, because, for you, even, going through what you went through, and then, being diagnosed with some of the, limitations that you had from your own physical health, it's almost like that metaphor of, how do I change my pain into purpose and rise through the ashes? How was that experience for you? Because I know you mentioned a lot about, the trials and tribulations and being able to rise, but how were you able to turn that pain into purpose? And what do you think that your purpose is today, sitting here?
I believe that my purpose, and I don't like to push any kind of spirituality or religion on anybody, because I know everybody believes in something different. I personally am a Christian. I believe in God. And I believe that my purpose from God is to take my experiences and my life's trials and let that be a light for other people, and to show them that nothing can hold me down.
Yeah.
I know that my diagnosis has significantly shortened my lifespan. I'm 51 years old. I'm not going to live, most likely, to 80 or 90. I'm most likely not going to live to see my grandchildren grow up and get married. My youngest son is 24. He doesn't even have a serious girlfriend. I'm probably not going to see him have a child or if I do live long enough to see him get married and have a child, I probably won't be with it enough to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, my purpose is to take what I have while I have it and put my light out into the world for other people. And to show people that, you know what, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And
it's like, it's okay to not be okay, but even if you're not okay, you can one day be, maybe not where you see yourself, the best version possible, but you can be, somebody that has a life of purpose, has a life of fulfillment, and are able to really navigate through anything,
right.
Any challenges.
I may not get my miracle. I may not be able to ever fully heal myself, but what I can do is take the time that I have left and heal others.
You often say, I believe this is from your book, you often say healing is a power move and resilience is a rebellion. Can you explain what that means to you? That difference, healing is a power move, resilience is a rebellion.
Yes. Healing is an active choice.
Okay.
It is not passive. You have to choose to move beyond your situation. You have to choose to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Healing is a choice, regardless what you're healing from, whether you're healing from addiction, whether you're healing from trauma, or whatever it is you're healing from. Healing is a choice. And resilience is refusing to let your trauma, your addiction, your diagnosis, or whatever win. Resilience being your rebellion is saying whatever that is not going to take me over. I'm making that choice to be better than that. I'm making that choice to win over that.
Don't allow your experiences to become your narrative, and don't allow a diagnosis or something that's beyond your control define you or shape the way that you live, the quality of your life.
100%.
I love that. Because we have a lot of listeners here, that struggle right now with whatever it is that's going on for them. What advice would you give someone who feels in a place of feeling hopeless or stuck or, not sure what their life is going to look like or what their day is going to look like? Because obviously I've been able to wear that on your sleeve.
Yes.
And show people that there is a way, there is, a way to live, and not to just exist, but to actually live. What's some advice that you would give to the listeners out there?
Well, I have 3 things for them. Number 1, your past does not define your future.
Yeah.
We all need to learn from our past and take lessons from it so we can move forward. But your past does not define who you are in your future. You do. Secondly, you don't have to do this alone. Whatever you're going through, there are people out there that are willing to walk your walk with you. You just have to ask for the help. And number 3, you have to ask yourself just one simple question. What if what I'm doing turns out to be better than anything I could have ever imagined? Because it just darn well might.
I want to ask you a question about that. What do you think that people get stuck in that whole process? Because, you even say, ask for help. Do you think that it's because people are too prideful to ask for help? Or what do you think that they really get stuck in this process of, I'm not going to be able to ask or reach out for help, or, I don't know if I'm able to, make it or even navigate or live through this. Like, in your experience, coming from your own personal journey, where do you think people get stuck?
Judgment. People think they're going to be judged by whatever they're asking for help with, because sadly, the world has become a place where the stigma around mental health and addiction and all of those things is that we are less than. That because we have an issue dealing with something, that we are less than. And what the people that are listening right now, what they need to understand is you are not less than. You are whole, you are wonderful, you are beautiful, and you are worthy of absolutely everything wonderful in this life. And yes, you may reach out to someone and you may get judged, but you need to understand that that person is not worthy of you. And you need to keep reaching out, because there are people there. There are way more people out there that are not going to judge you for asking for help. In fact, they're going to commend you for it. Then there are people out there that are going to judge you for it.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with that and that perspective for sure. Not only are you an author, not only are you an amazing speaker, which I'm really, really enjoying the power of this podcast with you, but you've gotten yourself into community and advocacy. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the Phoenix within Facebook. The group, what sort of inspired you to create that, and what's your mission for that group, and what does it mean to you?
So, along the same lines as what we were just talking about reaching out, I have noticed that kind of same thing, that stigma about people reaching out and not having a safe, comforting space to just talk, to just reach out. I have approximately 1,500 followers on Instagram.
Amazing.
And just people posting and answering and just commenting on my posts and my videos. I have people that say that they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they don't have anybody to talk to, they don't know where to reach out. And so that inspired me to create this group. And it is just created as a safe and supportive space so that nobody has to walk alone, that nobody has to feel like they don't have somebody to talk to, that this is a private community where there is no judgment, there is encouragement and connection, resilience and healing, and where they can connect with others going through all of the same challenges and walking the same road that they are.
Do you feel like that is probably the biggest importance as to why community is so vital in the healing process? Like why do you believe that community in itself is such an important piece to this?
I do. I definitely do. Because, back to the whole stigma thing, is that I think that there is just not enough out there that's accessible to everybody, that's just kind of in the general picture where people can see it, where it's just in their face, where they can reach out and realize, oh, I can join this group, I can go talk to these people, that this is a welcoming atmosphere for me. Because it is so important to know that there is a place to go where they're not going to be judged, where they're not going to feel unwelcome, where it's just, hypothetically a place I can just walk in and sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk to somebody that's going to understand my situation.
Yeah. Wow. So beyond your book, beyond your Phoenix base group, which you help and inspire many people, you've also created a guided journal.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the journal, because I love journal. I love journaling. It saved my life, because I had no idea how to really process or write emotions or feelings or things down. And what I really felt that it did for me was it was a very organic and cathartic experience for me to be able to finally and actually write things down on paper and, really learn how to process my feelings. But in your case, you've created a guided journal. What can you tell us about it? And how do you hope that it will help others on this healing journey?
Well, I did it kind of as a secondary or a companion to the book, and it's going to give readers tools to reflect. It has affirmation type prompts to self-discovery and encouragement, a safe place for them to put words to their own healing story. And it has 30 days, as well as an additional reflection to look back on those 30 days with a prompt. It has a resource panel in the back for places that they can go and get additional resources. And I think that this is a great spot for people to be able to sit with their own thoughts in the privacy of their own home and take their time and just kind of sit and reflect on what each little piece means to them. And it's not going to be something where, it's just your standard counseling session type question. These are very positive affirmations that are going to direct them to really reflect on what certain things mean to them. Mm-hmm. And then, it's going to be really great. Like we talked about last week in the Friday meeting, where it's important to hang on to a journal like that and look back and reflect on what life was at that moment for you. So I think this is going to be an important tool for people.
Yeah, for sure. What's next for you? I mean, you're doing all these great things. You're inspiring people. You're helping people. You're there as a ear for people. What's next? What's next for Stephanie?
Well, obviously, growing the Phoenix within community, as much as I can, and reaching as many people as I can. Continuing to share my story through as many speaking outlets as I can. I'm sure that I will come up with another semblance of my writing somewhere. I'm sure inspiration will strike. And then expanding other resources like the journal. I definitely want to keep on this path of mental health awareness, ending stigmas, and finding resources for people out there in the world. Obviously, I want to continue working with you all and seeing how we can collaborate on things and get the word out. I know we are literally on opposite ends of the world when it comes to North America, but I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can definitely, everything that we do here, I think one of the biggest things that really, I think, impact people the most is people's personal experience and hearing their story, hearing their what they've been through and how they've been able to sort of navigate and build and work through those things, right? Because those challenges cannot be easy, but I know that when they hear somebody else share their experience, strength, and hope, it gives them a piece of that semblance, for sure, right? And you talk about the Phoenix Face group you have, and you have about 1,500 people on there. Well, you're gonna have 1,501 because I want to add myself onto that group and definitely follow your story, your content, your inspiration, and your videos because this conversation, this podcast was very impactful for me. So I really, really want to thank you for taking the time today to do this with me. I really, really resonated with your story, and really has given myself and hopefully our viewers out there listening some hope, that you can make it through anything and make it through any struggles. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with Stephanie Sherouse, mental health advocate, author, self-help group, support group, and creator of content, beautiful content. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've loved working with you guys, and I'll be back anytime.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back. You're listening to Breaking the Silence. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all next week.